This video was sponsored by Brunt Workwear. High quality gear at the best possible price.
Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm gonna show you guys at home how I built this super simple shaker style bathroom vanity. And I'm gonna attempt to do it in one day. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I think I can do it. So stick around, watch this video if you want to learn how to build a shaker style vanity as well. And I think that's it. It's time to get to work.
Alright guys, as you can tell from the title of this video, I will be attempting to build this super simple shaker style vanity in one day. And I will be building this cabinet out of maple ply. Whoa, easy now, easy man. I will be building this out of 3/4 inch maple plywood. Now, like every good project, first thing we got to do is break down our sheet goods. Now I'll go ahead and start measuring, and I always measure larger than what I need so I can get everything nice and square on the table saw. This is just pretty much so I don't have to wrestle a 4x8 sheet of plywood through the table saw, because ain't nobody got time for that, or at least I don't. But with our line drawn, we can go ahead and get the track saw out and cut this thing down for its rough size. And if you've seen my recent video, you know that I'll be giving away a Craig track saw, so if you have not seen it, I highly suggest you go check it out. You might win, you never know. But anywho, after I've got it cut down to its rough size, I'll go ahead and set the table saw up and go ahead and get these pieces cut to their final dimensions. Now on this pass right here, I'm just cutting it to its final height of 34 3/4 of an inch tall, because this will be getting granite, bringing the total height to 36 inches. And now that I've got my nice square edge, I can go ahead and change the table saw, and we'll cut this down the middle to get our width. Well, before we cut it completely down the middle, I will actually rough cut this as well, and then I'll cut the pieces again to get them to their final width of 23 1/4 inch wide. And the reason we do that is because we will have a 3/4 inch face frame, so total depth 24 inches. And now that we have our pieces cut to size, we can go ahead and lay them out and try to draw a line, because I'm struggling. But anyway, we're trying to draw a line for the toe kicks. Now I like to do my toe kicks 4 inches by 4 inches. Some people do 3.5 by 4, 3 3/4 by 4, but 4 inches just makes it simple. I don't have to remember what I did, so to make things simple, we just do 4 by 4 and just repeat the process on the other side. And once we have our lines drawn for our toe kicks, this is very important. I got the toe kicks laid out on each side, and when you fold it, you have a book match set. It's very important, because if you don't do this when you start doing your dados, you'll end up cutting them in the wrong spot, and yeah, it won't work. You'll be going all the way back to square one, and you don't want to do that. But other than that, we can go ahead and change our blade out and get ready to cut our dados for the bottom panel. And for the bottom panel, I will be using 3/4 inch maple ply. Now I already know how many dado blades and chippers and shims that I need, so I'm not going to go through that process. You may have to do a few test runs, but I think you can handle that. And the next thing we want to do is set our blade to 3/8 of an inch high, where we'll be cutting 3/8 inch deep dados. So just make sure you set it to that measurement. I don't really have anything else to say. And once you got your blade height set, we're going to go ahead and set the table saw fence to where the inner blade towards the fence is 4 inches away. Just make sure you do that, because the 4 inches is for the toe kick. And then once you do that, just pretty much go ahead and run these bad boys through there and cut some dados. And after you run your panels through your saw with the dado blade, you're left with 2 outside panels just like this. And with a little bit of YouTube magic, I was able to get my blade changed without you even seeing it. But I'm going to go ahead and set the height of this blade to 3/8 of an inch as well, because we need to cut a dado for the back panel. And now I will be using a offcut of 3/4 maple to set the distance from my blade to my fence. And this is to go on the back side of the panel, which is where we'll put some nailer strips. And it may not make sense now, but you'll see what I'm talking about as we keep this project moving along. And I just want to take a second here and thank everybody who commented saying you need safety glasses. So I went and got some, and I'm gonna tell you, I dig it. Kind of makes me feel like Clark Kent, like I'm Superman, even though I'm not even close. But anyway, now that we got everything set up, we can go ahead and run the sides of our cabinet through here to make the dado for the back panel. And now let's talk about this video's sponsor.
Are you tired of searching the internet for hours trying to figure out the best work gear to buy, but you don't want to spend the arm and a leg? Well, I hate to be blunt, but you need Brunt. Brunt Workwear sells high quality, top-notch work gear for the everyday person just like you and me at an affordable price. And let me just tell you, they also offer a 30-day trial where you can buy the clothes at home, you wear them, if you're not satisfied within 30 days, you can send them back for a full refund. The hoodie that I'm wearing is the Chevlon hoodie. It's built like your classic work hoodie. It has become by far my favorite hoodie to wear in the shop or when I'm outside, especially in these cool North Carolina mornings. It's got an oversized pocket to keep your hands warm. Also has snaps around the neck that you can button up to keep that neck warm, because we all know don't nobody want to work with a cold neck. But anyway, this is by far my favorite hoodie. I love it. It's even got the Brunt patch right here on the side. And yeah, go get you one. For the pants, I'm wearing the Tora pants. They're built just like the hoodie for your everyday work person. They are absolutely comfortable. They are built with a 5-pocket design and with 2-way stretch material to keep your workflow as smooth and comfortable as possible. I absolutely love these pants and cannot recommend these enough. Also, go get you some. Now, for the footwear, I am wearing the Marin soft-toe boots. They are absolutely comfortable and they keep your feet nice and warm. Go pick you some up. I promise you're going to love them. They're waterproof, slip and oil resistant, and they're going to keep them toesies nice and warm. Go get you some. If you're interested in any of this stuff that I've got on, go check out bruntworkwear.com and type in East Carolina 10. That's bruntworkwear.com/East Carolina 10 and save $10 off your first purchase. You might as well go ahead and do it, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to be mad when you do it down the road, and you're going to wish you would have went ahead and done it when I gave you this discount code. And you'll be like, oh, he knew exactly what he was talking about. So yeah, go do it. Now it's back to the video.
And once I have the back panel groove cut, we need to go again, because I am not running a dado blade in my saw. So here I'm just using a little offcut or a test piece and just sneaking up on it till I get the right fit that I'm looking for the 1/4 inch back panel. So this is kind of important. Just take your time, make sure you get a nice good snug fit, but you don't want it too tight, because when you go to slide the back panel in there, it can be very frustrating if it's too tight. I have been there, I have done it. It sucks. But this is the fit that I'm kind of looking for. The 1/4 inch panel slides in there nice and smooth, doesn't hang up, and we're good to go. And I'll run these pieces one more time, and the back panel dado is done. And once we have those dados done, we can go ahead and move over to cutting the toe kicks out of the side pieces of our cabinet. Now, I like to use a jigsaw, but you can do it multiple different ways. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you do it. But as you can see here, it is very important to make sure you are cutting on the bottom of your dado. I cannot stress that enough. I talked about it in the last video. I've actually cut on the top part of the dado, and yeah, that's no bueno. So just make sure you're aware of what you're doing, and you'll be good to go. Oh yeah, look at that. Two beautiful cabinet sides. Looking lovely. But realizing there's still plenty of work to do and I'm on a time crunch because I'm trying to get this done in a day, we'll go ahead and break out another sheet. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut for the bottom panel of the cabinet. So once again, break out the track saw, cut it down, rough cut, take it to the table saw, clean it up. That's pretty much how you break down sheets of plywood, in case anybody was wondering. I don't ever run any full sheets through my table saw. That's crazy. And plus I couldn't do it if I wanted to because I look a little weak, and oh my goodness, the camera almost got tossed on the floor. Whew, that was close. But as you can see here, I'm using the side panel to sneak up to the blade so I can cut the final width of the bottom of the cabinet. Now I am building this a little bit different than what I normally would do. Usually I break everything down, cut it to size and put it together, but this way I can kind of explain the process to you guys, so hopefully you get a better understanding. But now that we have that set up, we can go ahead and run the bottom panel and go ahead and knock off that factory edge and cut it down to its final width. And once we have the bottom panel cut down to the final size, we'll go ahead and move the fence over to anywhere between 3 to 4 inches, and we'll go ahead and cut these nailer strips that will go on the back of the cabinet. And finally, we'll move the fence one more time to cut it to its final length. Yeah, I know it seems like a lot of steps, but it's very important that you get these pieces nice and square. That way, when you go to put your cabinet together, it doesn't look all crazy like your 3-year-old made it. So just trust the process, it's worth it. Now, once again, we're going to set our blade height to 3/8 of an inch because we need to cut a dado in the bottom panel of the cabinet to accept the back panel of the cabinet. And like I said, normally all this is done at once, so you don't have to keep moving this stuff, but I kind of wanted to go through the process and show you guys how I get to where I get, if that makes any sense at all. But hopefully after you watch this video, you'll get a really good understanding and you can go ahead and cut everything down to size and put it together like technically it should be done. But like I said, I'm doing this so you guys can kind of see how I get the measurements, where they come from, and the process that goes into making these cabinets. Seems a little bit of crazy out of order way to do it, but like I said, I feel like it's the best way to explain to you guys how I get to some of these steps and why I do what I do. And we also need to take one of the nailer strips and run that same groove through it because it'll sit on top of the back panel to keep it locked in place where it can't go nowhere. And now is a good time to go ahead and sand the inside of the cabinet before you put it together. Just makes things run a little bit smoother and you're not fumbling around trying to do the inside and making it tough. And now after I've drank my 3rd Red Bull for the day and I've ran out of energy almost, I can slow it back down and just take my time and go ahead and start gluing this cabinet together. Now, it's very important, make sure you use glue. Glue will hold this thing together stronger than a gorilla itself. So just take your time, put some glue in there, and go ahead and drop your bottom panel in there. And sometimes it can be a little bit snug, so you may have to use clamps to help force it in there like I am right now. But it should eventually go in there, and if it don't, you can always resort to beating it with some sort of mallet like you see right here. Should have probably checked my dado blade a little bit better. I might should have added another shim in there. But all in all, I got the slide in there and things were a-okay. Now this cabinet will be getting an exposed edge or exposed side, so I'm going to refrain from putting screws on one side and use these 90-degree clamps that I found on Amazon. That worked great, by the way. And they will hold this in place while the glue dries. And all these tools that you see me use in the video, I always link everything in the description down below. So if you're interested in any of it, go click on it, check it out. There's some good stuff in there. But anywho, now that we got the one panel in clamps, we'll go ahead and spread glue on the other side panel, and we'll go ahead and get ready to put that one in place. And you'll see it starting to take shape here shortly. Well, you'll see it starting to take shape after I do a little bit of beating and banging. I mean, I think you got to do that on all the cabinets, just to ensure it sits in there nice and flush. And yeah, I kind of wish I would have checked my dado blade, because I really could have used another shim to put in there, because all my stuff was a little bit snugger than I normally like it. That's why you just never trust a plywood supplier. It never works out. But anyway, we can go ahead and start pre-drilling and countersinking screws in the side of the cabinet that will be up against a wall. Now, if you're building a cabinet along with this video, yours could be different. If both sides will be exposed, then I would just probably resort to clamps and don't use any screws here, because you don't want to try to cover them up, because it'll never look as crisp and as clean as it should. And once we have the side panels fastened to our bottom panel, we'll go ahead and take a measurement and cut our nailer strips down to their final size. And if you got a stop block, it's very important to make sure you can make repeatable cuts at this step, because you need all these pieces to be the same length so your cabinet will remain square. And also, don't ever use factory edges, because factory edges, well, they're not square. And if you use them, chances are your project is not going to be square. With all those cut to size, we can move over to the Craig Foreman and drill some pocket holes. Bunches of pocket holes. And once I have all the pocket holes drilled, I'll go ahead and go back to the cabinet and measure for the back panel. Now, I always like to take the width and the height, and I always subtract a 1/16. This just makes fitting it a lot easier than trying to make it snug like a bug in a rug. And once we have the back panel fitting just like we want, we'll go ahead to the next step and install our nailer strips. And as you can see here, I'm very happy about spreading glue. I got a lot of good feedback. Everybody said, hey, we like seeing you put glue on there, that way we know you're using it. So make sure you use it, folks. Now you're about to see a mistake I made, and I'm realizing it right now. Yep, I drilled the pocket holes on the inside with the groove. They were supposed to be on the outside, but it's okay. Just make sure you put yours on the outside, but now I'll just have to screw it from the inside of the cabinet. And luckily this thing's not closed off where I can't get in there and do it. But that was a mistake I made, so you learn from my mistakes. That's how this thing works. Yep, there I am, having to screw it from underneath and inside the cabinet. Not like I should have been doing. But that's no problem at all. We'll just continue to work our way around the cabinet, adding all the nailer strips. Now this one just goes on the back side. We'll get this screwed in with all the pocket screws, and then we can move over to the next nailer strip, which we'll put on the front, and make sure you face the pocket holes to the outside. That way you can screw your face frame in, because once again, I've glued these up before and put the pocket holes facing the inside, and well, the inside of the cabinet doesn't get a face frame. So yeah, don't make that mistake. Learn from all these folks. I'm trying to tell you right now. Just pay attention to what you're doing. And in case if anybody's wondering why I'm adding these nailer strips all around the cabinet, well, it adds strength and gives you somewhere to screw your screws into the wall. And once you have that done, well, your carcass is complete. But now we got to move on to the face frame. Now for the face frame, I'll be using poplar, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on how I do face frames because I do have a video out on that. But I do like to go ahead and take the poplar and cut it down to a little bit smaller size. That way it's easier to go through my joiner and my table saw. And I pretty much got this smaller size by just measuring the height and the length of the face frame that I would need and cut the larger of the two. But so now I'm just taking it over to the joiner, going to make a couple passes on it. That way I can get a nice straight edge, the reference against my table saw fence. And I've realized pretty quick that this was supposed to be more of a build video where you watch me build it and try to do it in a day, but it's quickly become a instructional video. Which is, I'm not mad at that, because I think I like to inform you guys how I do things, and I hope to teach other people out there how to build cabinets, so I'm okay with that. But here I am just ripping it down on the table saw, and I like to make my face frames 1.5 inches wide. And I'll just take this piece and rip all the pieces that I need, and we'll move on to the next step. And once I have that done, I'll take them over to the chop saw and cut them down to their final length. Once again, using a stop block. Makes it easy, cut everything repeatable cuts to the exact length it needs to be. And once that's done, well, it's pocket hole time. Make sure you put pocket holes in all the rails that will attach to the stiles. And once I have all the pocket holes drilled, I'll take it over to my workbench and start clamping and attaching the face frame pieces together. If you don't have one of these Craig clamps, they are perfect for doing face frames. Keeps everything flat against your surface, and well, it just makes screwing everything in very easy. Also, make sure you put glue in all your joints. Don't know if I said that. If you have to use center rails, I highly recommend you cut little blocks. That way you know you got it even on both sides. Now, before I spend too much time sanding this thing down, gotta double check and make sure it's gonna line up and fit the way we want it to, because I don't want to sand it if I ain't got to. But yeah, the fun part, sanding. Everybody loves to do it. All the great woodworkers talk about it, but I'm not gonna bore you to death with a long sanding montage. But just sand everything. I sand it with 150 grit, then go back and break all the edges. Now, normally I already had these pocket holes drilled, but I was too worried about moving the camera around and kind of forgot to do it, so now I'm doing it. So enjoy. And once I have all the pocket holes drilled, I'll go ahead and lay my face frame down, and we'll go ahead and start attaching it. Now, I'm just doing this just to make sure, verify everything's going to be okay, but I will take this off and paint it separately. But to also show you, I'm just going to do it in the four corners, that way it stays up there, and then we can move on to the next step. But if you don't want to take yours off and paint it separately, you can go ahead and glue it and attach it and paint it right where it stands. So it's up to you. But I'm gonna spray it, it's just easier for me to do it separate. And now that we have that attached, we can go ahead and measure for our doors, and then at the very top I will be putting a fake drawer, because this will be a sink cabinet, and well, I'm not doing a U-shaped drawer. Job doesn't require it, so I'm not going to do it. But just take all your measurements, double check them, and we'll move on to making some doors. And once I have all my measurements, I'll take them over to the table saw and I'll cut down my poplar. Now I will be using poplar for the rails and stiles, and I like to make these at 2 1/4 wide. And once I have the pieces cut to their width, I'll take them over to the chop saw and cut them down to their length. Now it's always good to have a cut list. And like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail on how I do this. I have a great video already out on shaker style doors. So if you're confused, check that video out, but this is just kind of a rough run through of my process on how I do it. And I'm doing this on the table saw so you at home can do it, well, just like I do it. And now I just thought it'd be really cool to show you these sweet pieces of poplar I cut on my chop saw. And now that we have our pieces cut, we can go to the table saw and cut the groove for the center panel. Now I went ahead and installed my dado blade in there because it has a flat tooth profile, so it makes the groove nice and flat. And all I'm doing is running the piece one way, and then I'll flip it around and run it once more, and this puts the groove in the center of the piece. Now you will have to do this probably several times by sneaking up on the fit that you're looking for your center panel, and you do that by just adjusting your fence and keep running the pieces through until you get the right width of the dado. But anyway, once you get that set up and everything's good, at that point you can go ahead and run all your pieces through, just making sure you flip them, and well, this will give you all the grooves down the center. And then we can go on to setting everything up to cut the tongues on the rails. Oh, and I am using 1/4 inch MDF. Don't know if I mentioned that yet, but yeah, 1/4 inch MDF is what I typically use for my panels. But now we can go ahead and set our blade to the height that we need, and as you can see here, it's going to the bottom of the dado. And then also I'll move the fence over to where it's just 3/8 of an inch off the fence to the outside of the blade. And that'll give me a 3/8 inch tongue that will fit into my 3/8 inch dado. And once you have all the pieces ran through, well, you're left with what I call adult Legos, because they make money and they're fun to put together. But now we can go ahead and take these pieces and just sand all the tongues, and we'll get into the grooves that we cut for the center panel. Just makes sure everything goes together nice and smooth. And as you can see here, it's a nice beautiful fit and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Now we can move on to measuring for the center panels, and one way to get one measurement is to measure from tongue to tongue, subtract the 1/16. Then I'll kind of put the door together and measure from the opening, and then I'll add 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll subtract the 1/16. Once again, if it's confusing, watch my build video on how I do shaker doors. I explain it a little bit better. Well, it's not exactly how I do shaker doors because I do them on 2 different machines, but this way I explain it so you guys at home that at least have a table saw can build them. And yeah, so that's all I got to say about that. But once we get all the pieces cut down to their final size, we can move on to the next step, which will be putting our doors together. Just make sure you use glue because it is much needed. Once we have our doors assembled and we got them in some clamps, next thing we want to do is check to make sure the door is square. And you can check by making sure the door is square by measuring from one corner to the opposite corner and doing the same thing on the other side. And you should be hopefully within about a 1/16. You can live with a 1/16. If it's worse than that, you may have to do some adjusting. And to get this door out of the clamps pretty quickly, I like to shoot a couple pin nails at each corner. That way it just ensures and holds everything nice and tight when I take it out of the clamps. And once I do that, I just repeat the process for the rest of the doors until they are all done. And then it's on to what everybody loves, as they always say, sanding. And as I've stated before, I'll use 150 grit because 150 grit is all you really need, especially if you're going to paint your pieces. And anyway, I just go around all the faces of all the doors and drawers, and once again I break all the edges to give it a nice soft feel to the hand, plus paint don't stick to a 90-degree corner. And after that, I'll pull out the trusty Craig hinge jig right here, shoot me a couple clamps on it, and I'll start drilling for the concealed hinges. Now I will be using a 1.25" overlay soft close hinges. That's just what I always typically use to give myself a 1/2 inch reveal around all the cabinet doors and drawer faces. And once I get the other door done, we can go ahead and install our hinges. Now I highly recommend using one of these self-centering bits. It makes it really easy to find the center of the hole. That way you don't have your screws going in at angles and, well, your hinge tries to walk on you, because your hinges really need to be 90 degrees to your door. That way they don't get all cattywampus when you go to install them. And using my little trusty jig that I showed off in my shaker door video, we'll go ahead and get these doors installed. Makes it easy, the door rests right on it and gets the right offset every single time. And using the self-centering bit once again helps align the doors up, drills the holes right in the center. I don't have to fumble with it, so yeah, it's a great bit. So if you don't have them, I highly recommend you go get some. It's just a great thing to have in the shop. But once we get this door installed, I'll come back with a screwdriver, make sure I tighten everything up because I don't want to over tighten it with the drill. And we'll just repeat the process on the other door and install it, and shoot, we're almost there, guys. We're on the home stretch. Just hang tight. And with the glorious test closed right here, we'll see how the doors shut and line up. And yeah, this took a hot minute. I definitely need to adjust them. The speed is just a little too slow for my liking. But as you can see, they line up great, beautiful tight fit in the middle, and now we gotta install the fake drawer. Now I'm just using a 1/2 inch spacer to make sure I have a 1/2 inch gap between my doors and my drawer face. And once I have everything looking good, I'll drill some holes in the back and attach it with some screws. Now once again, all this will be taken off and painted, but as you can see, just trying to do it so you guys can follow along and see how I do these things. And with that done, the last thing is installing the toe kick. Whew. I wonder if my wife wonders where I'm at or if I'm okay. I don't know. But anyway, it's late. It's been a solid day. I've almost got this thing done. And I think we're going to make it. The 1-day build is almost complete.
Wow. That was a lot to try to get this done in one day for you guys. Trying to record a YouTube video while you build, yeah, it makes things a little bit challenging. But other than that, we got it done. It looks great. Only thing left to do is take this thing apart, put some paint on it, and then it's ready for install. But that's how you can build a super simple shaker style bathroom vanity. You can make this bigger, smaller, or you can even apply this to kitchen cabinets. It's pretty much the same exact thing, but this is actually a bathroom vanity. But other than that, if you want to see how I finish cabinets, I'll put a video up here in the top. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Might as well. If you're watching these videos, I'm going to have a lot more content coming out. I know right now it's all about cabinets, but everybody loves cabinets and everybody's trying to save money. So this is what I'm doing, trying to show you guys how you can save some money by building cabinets yourself. So just make sure you hit that subscribe button. It goes a long, long way for me and the channel. And if you have any questions about anything on this build, or you have a question at home, some kind of concerning stuff or whatever you may need help on, drop a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer it. And until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.